Today is November 1st, 2015, and we're at the Stenner Creek Railroad Trestle Bridge in San Luis Obispo, California. It's on Stenner Creek Road, and it was built well over 100 years ago in the 1890s. It's got old-fashioned block footings. It doesn't even have reinforced concrete footings. Extremely substandard for any trains. Of course, they want to run oil trains across here with 100 cars each, tankers full of highly flammable back-end crude oil, and it just doesn't seem reasonable, really. It seems like the railroad should do its duty to the public, to its investors, and rebuild these bridges so that they're safe and they're up to modern standards, because right now they're just not. And I'll take you down and show you some pictures of the footings after the train goes by here in a minute, and then let you make your decision for yourself whether you think it's safe to take passengers and freight and highly flammable oil across Stenner Creek Trestle, which goes over Stenner Creek, which winds its way through the Cal Poly campus and straight into the heart of downtown San Luis Obispo, a few miles away. Pretty scary, huh? Another scary thing is this is the main water supply for San Luis Obispo. This is where water comes in from Santa Margarita Lake and Whale Rock Reservoir, Lake Nacimiento, whatever other sources there might be. So if the oil train crashes and burns here because of this 120-year-old bridge that the railroad has no plans to rebuild, apparently, it's just too bad for everybody but the people who are getting all the money to run the railroad. Our water system here in San Luis Obispo will burn to a crisp, and there won't be any way for the firemen to get here to put it out, because there's a very small ancient bridge on Stenner Creek right there. And of course, if there's a huge oil train fire, which has happened over and over and over again in our country, big tanker cars, they run 100 tanker cars in a train, and the sloshing spreads the rails. So every 2 months you hear about the big oil tanker cars flying off the rails and crashing and burning out in the middle of a small Canadian town, Midwestern town. Absolutely unsafe, unnecessary. It would make a nice pedestrian bicycle bridge if it were reinforced with new footings and beefed up a little bit. Then the railroad could go just north of this bridge and build a nice trestle that would be to modern standards, so that they could have 4 or 8 whatever tracks like we do in other countries where they have a lot of trains, and we could have it would be part of we could be proud of this part of our rail infrastructure. Right now, it's sad, it's dangerous. It shouldn't be this way. So here are the unreinforced footings for this marvelous, for 1890s, railroad trestle. I'll pan up with the camera so you can see the girders and the columns. It's quite wonderful. I have heard that it's made out of the same steel they used for the Eiffel Tower, although that may be just a fanciful story. But it is a beautiful structure, and it's historical, and it's well worth saving. It's just no good for railroad trains to go across. These blocks of stone were quarried from Bishop's Peak over here, which is a lava rock plug. It's not even real granite. They call it Bishop's Peak granite, but it's much, much, much softer than real granite. That's all beside the point, though, because they're just blocks stacked on top of each other. There's no reinforced concrete. Who knows, in modern times they would put a giant block of concrete full of reinforcing steel, carefully calculated to handle all the stresses of a high magnitude earthquake. I don't think they quite had those kind of calculations in the 1890s. But they did a good job with what they had. But those days are in the past. We've paid the railroad companies a lot of money in the last 120 years. And whatever profits they have accrued, some of them should be spent to upgrade this public transportation. These right-of-ways were deeded to the railway companies, and they're allowed to operate a monopoly. There's only one railroad, the Union Pacific, coming through here. This is the main line for the Pacific Coast. So if it goes down, it puts a hurting on commerce. Obviously, the public people transportation is a scary, scary thing to think about the Amtrak going across this bridge and it being old, outdated, and unsafe. I would defy any civil engineer to come out here that's worth his salt and take a look at this and say, oh, it's just fine. No, it's not fine. It's got to be replaced with a new bridge, and this bridge should be reinforced, brought up to modern standards, and used as part of a rails to trails situation. Let's look at these blocks a little closer. Wonderful, beautiful, ancient, obsolete. But of course, it could be saved. This could all be, remodeled and reinforced, and a more modern bridge could be built next to it. But as it stands, it's just an example of unconscious, probably corporate behavior that seeks profit over any kind of duty to the public. Even though they have a public transportation system and a monopoly granted to operate in the public's interest, it's pretty obvious that they're not applying it to this bridge. In fact, they have no idea about doing anything with this bridge except running oil tanker cars across here, 100 cars at a time, several times a week. It's a recipe for disaster, and the public really can't let this happen.